In this video, we're going to look at how to set up your grading scheme. So, if you remember from the last video, we set up our course. So we have our course already ready to go. I called it my new course. I'm going to go into it. So I'm in Quest. I went into my new course. If I just created a course, then the grading scheme will be the first page that pops up before you get to the current view you see. But in case you want to go back after the fact and change it, I'm going to go start on the main course page. So I'm in my course. It has absolutely no assignments in it right now. It's a fresh course, nothing in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on grades and then under grading scheme. And under here, you're going to notice that there's going to be a bunch of different options, bunch of checkboxes, bunch of text fields to fill in. So I'm going to go over in this video what all of these mean. Depending on your course or depending on your institution, you may have 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 preloaded categories for grading. And when we say categories, we mean kind of like if you have a syllabus and your syllabus say, your homework's going to count for a certain percentage, your exams are going to count for a certain percentage, your in-class participation will be a certain amount of your total grade. This is what we're talking about with the grading scheme. So the default ones that normally show up are going to be your homework and your learning modules. Every so often, especially if you're at UT, you will be able to see the quiz, exam, and final as also preloaded options. If you've copied a template over, this might look a little different for you. So, homework, your normal traditional web-based homework, which Quest is known for. It is a web-based assignment, and you'll notice that there are a bunch of different options for this category. The first is the percentage weight. So if I wanted to say 30% of my students' grades is going to be based off of homework, then I would put in the number 30 there, and you'll see that my total percentage goes up to 30%. Say I want to allow students to drop their lowest grade, so that's what this next box here does. So I'm going to have my students, their grade, their overall grade is going to be determined that 30% will come from homework, and I will drop the lowest grade that they submit. The next column actually tells you the style of assignment. So this is an online, because it's a web-based assignment, it's an online assignment, and it allows retries because of the checkbox. And this means that if a student gets the question wrong, they have the option for another try at it. And this could give them up to 10 tries at it depending on the type of question. Multiple choice questions, there's always either will be allowed one less than the total number of possible choices. So if it's a 5 possible choices for their answer, it would give them 4 tries. The last one is kind of redundant, so we don't allow them to try on it. If it's a fill in the blanks type of question, so like a numerical question, it'll give them 7 tries by default. And this is not something that you can change, it's just determined by the question type and how the question was entered into Quest. The next column that you'll see is the randomized order. Randomized order tells the system, tells Quest, do you want question 1 to be the same for all of your students? And some assignment types like homework, the web-based homework assignments, allow you to, for instance, have your version of question 1 and my version of question 1 being slightly different. I might actually see your question 3 if randomized order is checked. This is different than randomized multiple choice questions or randomized numerical questions. The question itself, when you randomize, can be randomized. So my values for a numerical question, maybe I'm doing a physics question and it has mass of a cart. My mass might be 20 grams, your mass might be 30 grams. That's not what we're talking about with randomization. We're talking about the order of the questions that you see. Is my question 1 your question 3? Or is my question 1 your question 1? The next two options deal with kind of how do you award credit, and these are the only real controls you have over the credit that your students are going to receive on a question basis. I'm going to actually talk about the second one first. No negative points. By default, and this is really important, by default, Quest will use a point neutral system, similar to the SAT, where if you get a question right, you're awarded positive points. If you get a question wrong, you are awarded negative points. So if I have question 1, I haven't started the assignment, and I get it wrong, I will have a negative score. It will be below 0. A lot of students don't like this. A lot of instructors like or don't like it. It's really up to you. If you check the box, you will turn off the negative points. I mentioned this one because I just talked about allowing retries previously. If you allow retries and negative points are turned off, what will happen is that each time you try a question, the number of points that you receive for a correct answer will decrease. So my first time, I will get full credit. If I get it right on the second, third, fourth try, I will be getting less than full credit. If the retry or if negative points are allowed, you still will not get as many points for the right answer if it's on the fourth try, but you will also be penalized for the guessing. And retries allowed and this box unchecked will actually do a point neutral system. It's a pretty complicated formula, but pretty much what it does is that if you were to guess completely randomly, you should get a 0 average statistically on the assignment. Okay, so I'm going to have no negative points turned on, so my students are happy because I'm a big pushover. I'm going to go into participation credit. Participation credit is another way of giving credit for your students that is not based solely on the question itself. It's determined by how they act in the assignment. And this has 3 different options. It has no minimum, it has respond 1, and respond all. No minimum should be the default value. And what that means is that you're not going to give any credit for just trying. If you click on respond 1, what that tells Quest is that if the student responds to at least one question, doesn't get it right, but just attempts one question, then they will get a certain amount of credit for that assignment. So if they try one question in this assignment, they will get a minimum of 40% for that assignment. The other option is respond all. So if they respond to all the questions, then they would get 40% of the grade, as I have it put in right now. And this is before we even look at did they get the question right or wrong. So respond all is a little bit tricky because if they don't respond all, then it's an if statement. So if they respond all, then they would get 40% of the grade for free. If they don't respond all, they're going to get no participation credit whatsoever, and their complete score will be based off of the right or wrong. It's up to you if you want to use this. Obviously, it's an option we give to you. I will say that the other 60%, as I have it right now, 40% is given by participation credit. The other 60% is based off of right or wrong. So if you have 2 questions in the class, I go in as a student, I respond to both questions, I get one of them right, one of them wrong. By nature of me responding to both questions, because of respond all, I'm going to get 40% of that. And because I got the one question completely right and one question completely wrong, I'm not awarded any negative points, I will get half of the remainder of the points. So I'd get 40% for participation. Of the remaining 60%, I get half of that for getting the one right answer, and I would get a total of 70% on this grade. So 40% participation and 30% for me getting 1 out of the 2 questions right. All right, so those are the settings. I want to explain the different types and how to add in a new type, a new grading category. So say you have homework, maybe you want to add in an optional homework. what I'm going to do is I can click on the add type and it'll bring up a blank and I can put in optional, well, let's call this homework, spelled correctly. And I'm going to give it as one of multiple different categories. If you're an external user, you're not at University of Texas, your options will be a little bit more limited. You won't see the clicker options and you won't see the bubble sheet, but you should see Learning Module, Manual, Web, and Worksheet. So, bubble sheet is a bubble sheet exam that we can scan at the University of Texas. This is why we don't allow it outside of here. The clickers are based off of a system that we use at UT. Again, not things that are available outside of campus at this time. Web-based assignment is our normal homework style. This is the one that gives you kind of a PDF view and then gives a side view, a sidebar for entering answers. A learning module is kind of a slideshow. Think of a PowerPoint slideshow where you can put in content and questions in on it. Some people use these for reviews. Some people use them for doing flipped class. That's actually the biggest use of our learning modules. But it's something that you can try. It's one of the default ones that'll come up. The worksheet is similar to a web-based assignment, but it takes all the questions and turns them into manually graded questions. So it would take off all of the multiple choice questions and make them into just straight what is the answer type of question. Any of the numerical questions would just give you a big blank space to show your work. Some people use this. It's not a heavily used category of style of assignments, and there has been some talk that this might go away because the web-based assignment actually can work in the same way. The manual category here is actually a nice one to use if you have things outside of Quest that you want to give points for and use Quest as your gradebook. For instance, if you give a project out, say you have 2 projects throughout the year, well, I would maybe select manual as my projects. And what it would do is give me the ability to put some weight for my 2 projects. I give 10% for each of the 2 projects, so 20% total. When I actually create the grades for these or want to enter the grades in, I'm going to actually say there's going to be 2 assignments, a manual project 1 and a manual project 2. And those would give me the spots for putting in the grades. And it's really just a key place to put a grade. Think of it as just a line on your grade book. And you'll notice that a lot of the options go away on this one because there are no questions associated with it. So we can't randomize the questions and we can't allow retries because there are no questions. And you can have a lot of different types of options of different categories. As you can see that the quiz, the exam, and the final exam are all the same style of submission, but they have different categories, even though in Quest, the assignments are created the same way, they act exactly the same way in terms of how the students would interact with them. But in terms of our gradebook, we want to have those different designations. So maybe I give 15% for my grade there, and I give my final exam, I'm going to give 35%. So this is a sample grade book that you can set up. You'll notice that my total went up to 100%, which is good. All right, at the bottom there are a couple other things that I want to go over. And this is kind of how do the assignments interact with each other in a specific category. So if I'm looking at my homework category, which is a web-based homework, I want to know if I have a 10-question assignment and a 20-question assignment, how do I put the 2 together when I figure out the grade for my homeworks overall? So the default is going to be that we weight each one equally. So 1 assignment is worth 1 assignment. So each assignment is worth equally for all of them. Doesn't matter how many questions they have, a 10-question assignment, a 20-question assignment would each be worth 1 assignment. The opposite of that is going to be the sum points in a group, where a 10 question assignment is worth probably 100 points, 10 points per question. The 20 question assignment would be worth 200 points. So my 10 question assignment would be worth half the weight if I'm summing the points in a group than a 220 question assignment would be worth. The third one under here is one that's actually not used that often. Weighted assignments equally is definitely the most popular. Sum is the second most popular. Scaled score is bell curve grading, and it will take your students and compare them to each other. The defaults on that are 500 is the median score, the middle of the group, the average, and the standard deviation, I believe, is 100 for this. So if you really want to use scaled score or bell curve grading, this would be the way to do it. It is not a very common thing to do anymore, and it was something that happened a while ago that was pretty standard among teachers, but it's been slowly fading out. There is the ability to define what is an A, B, C. If you'd use pluses and minuses, you can put them in here too. There is no rounding on this, so if I have a student that has a score of 89.99, they're currently getting a B. I don't give pluses or minuses as it's set up, and they don't round up to the 90. It's a pure, it's just a straight cutoff value. And if you want your students to be able to see what their overall score is and their overall letter grade, this is a field where you can put a calendar date in there to let the students know when it is. Some instructors never put this in. Some instructors make it available right away. Some wait till partially through the semester. It's completely up to you. So I'm going to set it to now, and once I get done, I will hit Save Changes. Everything will be ready to go, and if I ever need to go back in, again, it's under the grading scheme. So thank you for watching, and hopefully this will help you get your gradebook set up and help Quest figure out the overall grades for your students to match what you put in your syllabus.